Hi guys, Cosi here, physical therapist, amputee specialist, and the host of Cosi Talks. And with me today, I have Gini. And yes, she is the @Slim Gini that you will see on Instagram and Facebook, defying gravity with what she does. So we're going to keep it short and sweet today. If you know Gini, you know that she is a right above the knee amputee. She went through several years of not being able to use a socket until she finally transitioned to using the OPRA implant system, Osseointegration, and has been killing it ever since. And what is one of your favorite hobbies to do that we see you do all the time?
Yoga.
If you guys have seen her Facebook and Instagram channels, you see how incredibly active she is with yoga. However, there is one tiny little Achilles heel that still gets Gini, and I'm gonna let her tell you about it.
My hip always stays very tight, and you think with yoga and stretching all the time that I would just be loosey-goosey, but the hip continues to be tight no matter what I do.
And you've done specific stretching exercises. That's always been...
I do. I stretch every day, but it still seems to go right back to being tight.
Now, one of the things I've learned in practice is that a lot of times when it comes to, especially with amputees, when it comes to perceived hip flexion tightness, it's actually the hip extensor fault. And the hip extensors are also known as the glutes, your bottom. So basically what's happening is when you're using that prosthesis and you're putting your body weight into it, your brain kind of goes into protection mode, right? Because it takes a lot of trust to step onto that prosthesis and know that it's not going to buckle on you.
Correct.
Right? So instead of letting your glutes take control as they should, the hip flexors say, nope, we're going to stay in protective mode, and they stay turned on. They just stay turned on very quietly. And then over the course of time, that muscle and soft tissue starts to shorten. So I often hear from folks, I'm stretching it, I'm so active, but I only get relief for a few minutes, or I feel like I never progress.
That's me.
That's you. Okay. And then obviously the higher level up the amputation, the more this is going to be present. So we're going to try an exercise that you've probably already done before, but instead of just doing a plain old stretch, we're going to start teaching the hip flexors to turn off and quiet.
Okay.
And to give control back to the glutes.
All right. Booty control.
Let's do it. Love it. All right. Stick around.
All right, so Gini, I know you've probably done this stretch before, and I know a lot of folks out there have already done it, but it's how you do it and the devil's in the details. Okay. So what I'm gonna have Gini do is I'm gonna have her do a half kneel onto the prosthetic side. She's got a chair there for support, and you can actually do this with a chair on each side depending on your level of mobility. Now, you got it? You're good? Now, most people, when they do this stretch, they just get into this position and they move forward, right? Which Gini has done this before in the past. But in doing that, we're just stretching the muscle. We're not telling the muscle to turn off. We're not telling those hip extensors to turn on. So we're gonna change this exercise up just a little bit. So you're in the great position right here. It's nice and aligned directly into the ground like that. I'm gonna have her do a posterior pelvic tilt, which means she's gonna kind of tuck her tailbone in, okay? Right, so already that's gonna put this front on a stretch right there. Now, before she goes anywhere, I'm gonna have her contract her glute. The way you do that is you kind of squeeze your butt together, and that's how you make that glute turn on, right? So she's gonna squeeze her bum together. I know, we might have to do a few takes on this one. Squeeze the bum together, right? And then gently move forward. Okay, so you're gonna feel it a lot more there. In squeezing her bum and activating those glutes, she's turning those hip flexors off, so they have to relax. And then the control goes back here, which is where it should be during this part of the movement. It's a fancy word, we call it reciprocal inhibition. But basically, these guys need to turn off, these guys need to turn on, then we can get a nice stretch and the control goes back to where it needs to be. Feeling it?
Feeling it.
All right, let's try it one more time. All right, relax, 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 relax. Okay, tuck the tailbone in. Okay, squeeze the bum and then gently move forward. Okay, and she'll be feeling it right here. If you're a below the knee amputee, you're gonna continue to feel it down here, right? So once she can control the movement and then relax, she's gonna do like a 5-second hold like what she just did there. So she'll do that until she can control the movement and keep that pelvis tucked in nicely, all right? Stick around for the next part. So once you've had a chance to practice that in tall kneeling, you can then put it into standing. You put the prosthetic leg forward, okay? And she's gonna hold on to me for safety. And then what you do is step through with the sound side, okay? So this is the part right here in the gait cycle where the glutes should be turning on and the hip flexors should be staying quiet, okay? So once you've had a chance to practice and kind of re-educate those muscles on when they should be on and when they should be off, that is when you're going to start to see improvements on that hip flexor tightness.
Gosh, that is a big question. I think you have to learn how to listen to your own body and know that you are on your own timeline. You can look at thousands of other amputees and want to be exactly where they are, and you want to do it in a shortest amount of time as possible, but you are on your own timeline. Listen to your body, try to do a little bit each day, and eventually you'll get there.
There you go.
All right, guys, so remember, hip flexor tightness, it's not just about muscle tightness, it's about muscle control. So get those glutes working, and then you'll start to see some changes. Okay, listo, Spielberg.